army life. Military was his life for decades. Routine, discipline, and yet his art, just like his mind perhaps, is a fusion of total freedom, experimentation, brutal honesty, exactitude. I love that picture. When I see it, I get a tidal wave of deja vu. I was a military brat. I immediately detect a scent of cheap cologne, cigarette smoke, Turkish coffee, and a whiff of diesel fuel. For that picture, his spirit, dressed in olive green, hovers over us all.
So I'm very excited about this opening. I'm happy for the Anbar family. But when I knew them, it was 1975 to 1978, and I actually didn't know that Safrir was an artist. He didn't discuss it. I was friends with his daughter Tal. I met her on the first day of camp on the bus, and we became best friends. And so it's come full circle now. 43 years later, I'm finding out that Safrir was an artist, and I'm seeing his beautiful work, and I'm so happy for the family, happy that they discovered this art and that it's on show for everyone to see. Shai discovered this work in his father's studio when he went home after his father passed away, and he was helping his family clean out the family home. So these are pieces that he had never seen and didn't even know existed. He knew he had a treasure and he wanted to preserve it.
One day, and this is a true story, I was at the JCC gym practicing, and I was approached by the instructor. Her name is Liz Green, and she tells me, "You are the Shaliach, the Israeli emissary, right?" And I say, "Yeah, this is me." She says, "You know, I used to be a friend of the children of the Shaliach in the 70s, back in the 70s, and when they left, I went with them, and I stayed with them the whole summer, and we're still friends after 4 decades later." So it was a really inspiring story. And she tells me that the kids of the Shlichim, they're adults now, but the Shaliach, unfortunately, is deceased. And apparently he used to be a great painter. And the children have all these collections of wonderful paintings, and they asked if we could make an exhibition here at South Jersey, at the JCC, at the Federation Building, to remind the community about the Shaliach and allow them to enjoy that art.
Excited to see that there was an exhibit of Safrir's artwork at the JCC, and it brought back some wonderful memories. When I was right out of college, I got a job at the JCC, and within the first year there, they offered a tour of Israel for teenagers, and they needed an extra chaperone. Safrir was going to run the show, and they asked me to join the teens in Israel. I think it was a 6-week trip, and we saw Israel from top to bottom, and that was in the days when we had the Sinai. We snorkeled at Sharm el-Sheikh, we climbed Mount Moses, we camped in the desert, we brought hummus off the top of the bus that was still bubbling from the heat when we would eat it in the desert. And it was an extraordinary trip, and I understand Safrir was then put in charge through his military service to convince the Israelis who had moved into the area of the Sinai that they had to leave in order to give back the land in exchange for peace with Egypt. And it was a heartbreaking job because Israel was giving up a lot, but obviously it was for the better good. And Safrir holds a wonderful, very special place in my heart. He was a great travel companion, and the kids loved him. So that's my experience with Safrir. He was a great guy.
Waits for father. At first glance, His configurations, composed of flat, simplified shapes, usually in bright, bold colors, looked clumsy and lacked subtlety or sparkle. But little by little, as you give them your full attention, they start to grow in you. I can feel the feelings, from tension to anxiety to calmness to refinement. Gradually, I find myself admiring the intense sincerity and total freedom from slickness.
My dad traveled a lot, but for work and stuff. But when he was home, I vividly remember a lot of cooking, which I'm sure you would also. And funny enough, that's actually the same thing as how I remember my grandpa. They both just loved cooking, and that's really where I assume it all stemmed from.
They were both constantly in the kitchen. Anytime you'd come downstairs or you woke up, you would be immediately just, smacked in the face with the best smells
or it
ever.
would be
oh
like
God.
rabbit stew, which
some crazy.
wouldn't love.
But it always smelled so good when you walked downstairs, and they were both constantly in the kitchen, teaching each other things, and my dad very much so learning from my grandfather, for sure.
First of all, I could see and feel the purpose that he has. That he has a project, and he was fully committed to having this project succeed, and to tie all the knots and make all the connections and have everything 100% perfect. And this is, I don't want to say it's a change, because this is how I know him.
A woman with a flower, sharp contrasting colors, geometrics, faceless figure, large spaces disharmonious to one another, simplicity at its best.
My father, how to say in a few words how wonderful and how talented he was. Had golden hands, everything he touched turned into beauty. If it was food, or definitely if it was a painting. He was a very talented artist, but very modest, never spoke about it too much. The house was like a museum, lots and lots of pictures, full of color, happy ones.
Memories and imageries. My childhood. I think part of it is the smell, the intoxicating smell of my dad's cooking. Sitting down together, laughing and joking. And of course the traumatic move from Israel to the US. For all of us kids was completely a different world. There's one thing I should actually tell him. One of his recipes that includes margarine. The only thing I want to say. Dad, what the hell were you thinking?
So, this is a beautiful story of a gentleman who walked into a shed in Israel at a time that perhaps might have been a very sad time in his life, going through his parents' belongings. And he comes across a treasure trove of paintings, things that were probably hidden for decades. And he has this idea, and the idea was to come to Cherry Hill. And that is just a beautiful thing, because it represents what this community does and how it impacts people's lives.
I'm a man of very, very few words. And good way. So I'm just elated to be here. I'm still can't believe that this is real. You know, but thanks to Liz, Arkady, Suzanne, Sabrina, and everybody at the JCC crew, you know, it is happening. You know, so it's seeing my brother here and my kids and everybody, and seeing Stuart and Lois and Maxine and people who are, my God, I just it's unbelievable. So, just enjoy this event, enjoy the art, and if you're in the mood, you can always take something home, a picture of his, my dad, putting on the walls, knowing that you're taking home a piece of our history, this is our community, and this is Shlichut from Israel, the US, all of us. So I'm just so proud, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. I love his pictures because of its faceless figures. The tension, the emotion, just it's part of his signature. So when I lay in my bed at night, I always tell him and tell her also. Abba, Ima, Toda. Thank you.